are standing, hearts made of steel. We know the struggle, we know what's real. Ops for vets, we survive the fight. Shoulder to shoulder, we shine.
Hi everyone. Welcome to our show. Hi, Miss Jane. Welcome to Just the Facts, ma'am. We are so glad that you guys tuned in
Hello, Miss
tonight.
Tracy.
Can you hear me
How
okay?
are you tonight, Miss Tracy?
I'm doing just fine. And you, Jane?
Doing well. A little squirrely. Got to leave early tomorrow to go to Atlanta.
Oh, is it time for the event?
Yep.
There's people.
I'm going down and
Oh,
spend 48 hours with my younger sister. She hates
okay.
it when I call her baby sister. And then over to the conference on Sunday.
Very good. Oh, that's so excellent. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Just the Facts, ma'am. We are so glad that you joined us tonight. We have a great show lined up for you. Ms. Jane has picked a real meaningful topic, something that, at some point it's going to be necessary, right? It's going to be necessary. I'd like to encourage you to introduce yourself, put your name, maybe your city, state into the chat. We'd love to send some shout outs and say hello to you. I'll encourage you to enter any questions that you may have about today's program and invite a friend, right? Someone else that is a veteran, cares for a veteran, who has an interest in veteran benefits, go ahead, send them a text. I'll wait a few seconds, not too many seconds. Go ahead and send them a text and tell them to go join us, to log on to the show so that they can learn what we're going to be discussing today. So I'm Tracy. I'm the president of High Surety and Insurance Services. We are a bond specialist. We do bid bonds, performance bonds, and payment bonds for government construction firms. And my co-host is the wonderful Jane Babcock. Jane, would you
Hi.
introduce yourself?
I am a retired Army reservist, 21 and a half years, was shooting for 30, but unfortunately I had some injuries that I was broken toy, so I had to go home. And then I became a county veteran service officer, which really in my mind saved my life because I got to go back to being part of the military family. Accredited county veteran service officers, most of them are veterans. Most of them have to go through, well, all of them have to go through a training process, state and federal training, and then they take a test, then they have to get sponsored, and then the VA has to approve them as far as, background check and stuff like that. And then they serve veterans and their families at no cost. They are paid by the county, the state, the tribe, or the veteran organization. So they charge nothing to the veterans.
Well, welcome back. We're always glad that you are here. I'm always glad that you're here. And you guys know how we feel about veteran service officers, right? I mean, if you don't remember but a few things from the series, that's one of those things where we actually expect you to take action. We expect you to reach out to the person that's serving your county, to introduce yourself and maybe your family to the VSO, and be in contact with them on at least an annual basis, if not more regularly. All right, so Jane, what do you have for us today?
Well, we're going to talk about memorial honors and burial benefits. Like you said, sooner or later, every one of us are in a situation where we're leaving. And our family may or may not know where to go to get help. Who's going to bring the flag? Who's going to give them the flag? Where could they go to request either taps or maybe a gun salute? In most states, it's going to be the funeral home that takes care of those things. And what they're going to do is they're going to reach out either to the VSO office to get issued flags, or they may actually go down to the post office. You know, if their VSO is far away or things like that, then they can get them at the post office. They turn in a form, they get a new flag and a new form, and then they just keep rotating. So there's always a flag, whether it's going to be folded into a tricorder, you know, triangular shape, because it may be placed next to an urn if the veteran was cremated, or it may be draped over a casket. And then the funeral director is going to work with the local and state veteran services. So the different organizations will, you know, they'll call up and say, hey, we understand he was a member of the VFW. He was part of your post. Well, usually then they're the ones that come and do the salute and they do the taps or the firing, things like that. And some families, it's too emotional, say, for the gun salute. So they choose just to have the taps at the graveside. And others want the whole thing.
Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like and what that feels like when your loved one is not well. So you're expecting the end to come. How much time do you need to plan to have the memorial and to plan it when it's possible? Because I know sometimes accidents happen, so you don't have a lot of time. But when you have some time, what does that look like, and how much time are we talking?
Well, literally, the veteran organizations, at least in my area, used to be able to respond within 48 hours. So oftentimes when a veteran passed away, of course, community, they hear about it. They know that their member was very ill or things of that nature. So they expect it to happen. So they've already got it in their mind. Who's going to stand honors? Who's going to stand up by the casket? Who's going to present the flag? You know, so they've already pre-planned a lot of that in their own mind. But usually, once the funeral home gets a hold of one of the veteran organizations and says, hey, he was a member, or he was a member of no post, and your group is the next up on the list. So honors. Pardon?
Say that part to me again. The person was not active in any post. Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah. You know, and so they just take a rotating list.
Understood. So, okay, so that's how they get how TAPS is taken care of. What is the honors part that you had mentioned?
Honors is the taps, the gun salute, the present, having someone standing at the head of the casket. Usually, it's in the same branch of service.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's just the final farewell.
Very nice. Very nice. And you said in most places, 48 hours gets the job done.
Yes, and a lot of times, you know, veterans may pass away in one place and then they're going to go home to be buried, perhaps next to a spouse or something like that. So usually the local mortician that's taking care of the remains and stuff like that will be in contact with where the remains are going to. And there's some things I can tell you about, we're going to get into a little bit later, regarding VA potentially paying for the shipment of those remains. So we'll keep going though on the list.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was headstones. You'd be surprised how many different variations of headstones the VA will provide. One of our cemeteries requires all the headstones be flat. So you can get a granite or a marble headstone that's basically a slab. Or you can have a cement slab put down and then you could have the large bronze marker mounted to it. VA will provide that bronze marker. VA will provide those headstones. And they have their, you know, the basic information about branch of service and things like this. You can get the white headstone that you see in all the veteran cemeteries if you do get placed in a state or federal veteran cemetery, you're going to get the white headstone for uniformity. But, and there are times when the spouse's information can actually be placed on that headstone. If the spouse predeceased the veteran, that it's possible to have their name, date of birth, and date of death put on that same stone. So, yeah. And now, if the veteran is buried in a veteran cemetery and his spouse is, say, placed next to him, because you can pre-schedule, I guess, it's not some, make a reservation.
You know, I was intending to ask that question because there's, you know, out in civilian land, we have like reservations or, you know, pre-planning for funerals, and you can buy lots or spots. Okay, so go on with that. You were saying that it's possible to be buried next to your spouse?
Yes, it's quite possible for the spouse to be buried next to the veteran or perhaps in the same grave. Maybe the spouse passes later and is cremated and originally planned on, you know, being put in her local cemetery or his local cemetery, and then they change their mind and they decide they want to be with their veteran. Well, if the plots on either side aren't available, then they can go ahead and be cremated and placed on the same plot.
And what does it take? What actions does the family or the surviving spouse have to take to tap into like the headstone benefit? How does that work?
Well, that's another good reason why you should know your VSO, your accredited VSO. In my office, we read every single obituary, and we had, you know, regular contact with all of our different veteran organizations and our coroner. So anytime the coroner, he always asked the family, is this a veteran or not? Because he had to check a box on the death certificate. So he knew from the family. So they would check with us and say, hey, do you know this is a veteran? He used to live in Colorado and he just moved out here. So we found different ways of getting a hold of the information, and then we could be ready for the family. We could send them a letter saying, you know, come see us. I had a particular family, they didn't have the financial means. Well, some of our cemeteries will set aside plots, and or they have a scattering garden for ashes. So they can be scattered, and then the family can just get the bronze marker and have that placed either flat to the ground, like I mentioned, on a cement slab, or in some crematoriums, they have it as a wall full of the smaller bronze markers for all of our veterans. So there's all sorts of ways to honor them, and your VSO is going to know how to do that, how to take care of the paperwork. A lot of the information, they're just going to be able to click their computer. If they have his information or her information already in the system, it'll automatically fill that all in. So
Okay.
it's a signature.
All right. I'm watching the chat, and we have I just sent a note. Al shared with us the link for military burial requests, and that link is www.usa.gov/military-funeral-honors. Okay. So if you're out there listening and you're thinking, you know, I might need to look into that, go ahead and look into it now. You know, and if you haven't already connected with your VSO, do that yesterday.
Yes. And one of the things I can suggest to everyone, call the VA. I know 1-800-827-1000, which is, you know, can be a wait from hell. But they do offer you the opportunity to leave your number and they'll give you a call back. And generally speaking, they're pretty good about calling you back within the next hour or so. Or you can call the VA cemetery number. So you can Google that, toll-free VA cemetery, and they will send you a book called Planning Your Legacy.
Hmm.
It's a probably a quarter-inch thick. It's an 8.5 by 11 type brochure, and has the forms and everything in it. So you can gather
Oh,
the information before you go down to the VSO, who's going to plug in what's necessary into the computer. You're going to sign just like at the bank on one of those little boxes, and the form is in.
oh.
So now,
Planning your legacy. That's good. Okay.
yes, the VA, I have a box and a half of them sitting in my house. I take them with me when I go to do community events. But everybody says it's great that I get a free headstone or a free bronze marker, or if you're being cremated, there's a small medallion. There's a real small one, a medium size, and a really big one that can be placed on the headstone or on the front of the crematory, the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds so crass, but the place where you've been placed. Um, so those all are free. You pick which you want, but you do have to pay if you're going to have the bronze marker mounted to the headstone or something like that. You have to pay for the drilling of the holes, because the stone company is going to drill the holes, and part of their fee is an insurance thing in case there's a defect in the stone. It cracks. And VA doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to contract with every single stone company. So the price of getting those mounted is on you. That's like the headstone. They will send the headstone to the company that's going to place it for you, but you're going to pay for the placement because it's not a set fee and all these other things, transportation, how far are you from the cemetery, and all the other things. So you're going to pay the fees to have the things done, but and those bronze markers are the large one is easily over $1,200.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how long does it take to actually get it? Is it after the homegoing celebration and then it shows up a couple
Yeah,
weeks or a couple months?
generally speaking, because I've had veterans that used to come in the office and say, "Look, I want to get all this stuff ordered," and it's like, we're missing a little bit of information here. Are you absolutely positive 100% that you're going to be in that same cemetery? So, and we don't know what day you're leaving. So, it
Can't
can,
can't plan it. Can't plan ahead too much, huh?
right. It can be, you can fill out the forms ahead of time and have them in your file at the VSO office. And that way only a family member has to come in and sign for it. Or if there is no family estate executor or someone of that nature, even the VSO can sign. I had a veteran, we couldn't find any family. So I went ahead and signed for his things. And our veteran organizations got together, they paid for his cremation, and then took him over to the state veteran cemetery and they placed him.
That fellowship, that brotherhood, that family is just such a blessing. Al sent us the link to planning your legacy. Link for that is www.benefits.va.gov /benefits /docs /VA survivors kit
Yep.
.pdf. So you can go to the internet and download the PDF version of the Planning Your Legacy brochure that Jane was talking about. Okay. Um,
One of the other things I didn't mention was you can, if you're being cremated, the VA will actually issue an urn,
mm,
because some family members decide that they want to keep the ashes
mm-hmm,
and may or may not place them right away. But you do sign that you intend to eventually place those remains.
mm-hmm.
So you can get a military urn that actually has the branch of service and everything on it.
That sounds nice. For those that are considering cremation, that sounds nice. I mean, it's a tough subject. It's one of the ones that kind of you know you have to think about it, right? Um, but it makes you a little bit uncomfortable. But that's why we're here. That's why we're here because you got to be ready.
Yes. And the last thing we want to do is put the onus on a family
Hmm.
when they're going through the trauma of losing you. So if you've had that conversation ahead of time, you've gotten one of those books like Planning a Legacy, and you're able to say to the family, look, I simply want taps at the graveside. That's all I want. That takes it off of them to make that decision and feel like, well, maybe I'm not doing it the right way or the way they wanted. And that planning a legacy also reminds you to look and see if the veteran had VA life insurance.
Mm.
Yep. We checked all of our veterans, especially our very oldest, any veteran that was over 55. We automatically checked with the VA life insurance because there are certain policies that you pay on for 30 years and then you stop paying. So maybe the family didn't realize that he had paid in. Or, like in my case, I have my VA life insurance, I have the premium taken right out of my disability. So, especially, like I said, especially the older folks,
Hmm.
because maybe he paid his 30 years and stopped paying, and you
And
didn't realize he had.
if okay, so let's say you find out that they did have life insurance, um, but no one knows where the policy is, and nobody knows how to send the death certificate. Is that a call your VSO type thing, or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
your BSO is just going to take the documents that are necessary, the death certificate, and have them sign that they are, in the proper chain of inheritance. So, say mom's gone too. So now it's got to be the oldest child, and or maybe there's no family. So there's somebody that's taking care of the final estate, and they're the ones that may be eligible if they're paying anything to take care of the remains and funeral and plot and things like that. They may be entitled to those stipends. And if there's an estate being left behind, that life insurance may need to go into that estate. So,
When you are there? Is it like when I hear life insurance, I think about declaring your beneficiary. Is it like that, or is it not like that?
yes, you can declare your beneficiaries, but unfortunately, people forget to change them. And that includes sometimes forgetting to take off the now ex spouse.
Ladies and gentlemen out there,
Yes,
I,
if you get a divorce or you get married, you need to make sure that those things are up to date, just like you would the deed for the house. You need to make sure that if there's life insurance out there, that it's been updated.
mhm.
So, but the VA will go through the order of inheritance and then executor and things like that. So,
Okay, okay. Now, did you want to move on to the national cemeteries?
sure, cemeteries, both state, national, and burials at sea.
Oh,
Anytime we're talking about
see.
the remains of a veteran,
Okay.
if he was at Pearl Harbor, there is a very significant, very emotional ceremony. Well, they will take the remains of that veteran down and place him onto a ship so
Wow.
that they can be with those they served with.
Wow.
And the state cemeteries, like I said, state and federal national cemeteries, you can talk to them about doing all the paperwork and quote making a reservation.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and a lot of the state veteran cemeteries are located right next to the veteran homes. So if you do end up in the veteran home, you know where you're going.
Mhm.
And earlier we talked about flags.
We
Well,
did it. I meant to ask you a question about that. Are flags free also?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The items themselves are free.
Mhm.
Okay. But like I said, the headstones, you got to pay the fee to place it. But flags, a lot of times we had family that came in and said, this was Uncle Freddie's flag, and none of us really care to keep it. He had no kids. What do we do? Well, we would offer to take it and send it to the veteran homes in our state because for Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and other holidays, they line the main road with those flags, or they will have
Right.
at the cemetery, lining the cemetery area when they're placing a veteran. So, and most of the time the weather's good, but sometimes it's bad, and sometimes those flags start to get a little faded and things like that. And then they will take care of them with the proper ceremony. A flag can't just be thrown away. So if your
That's right.
flag has gotten tattered or faded or anything like that, sometimes the VSO collects them, sometimes the Veterans Service Organization collects them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're only going to get issued one flag per veteran. Uh, Unfortunately, my grandfather had his flag on his casket, and then the same flag was used for my dad, and it was intended to be on my casket. Unfortunately, when I was out of town at a training event, one of the people that was helping out in our office didn't realize that the flag that was in the display box was mine, and he gave it away.
Oh.
I'll have to get a new issue flag. But that's
Oh man.
right. Yeah. So, anyways, those flags can be very significant. They're hand stitched and everything. They're made in the U.S. and they're just, yeah, they're meaningful. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, family asks, "Can we get more than one flag for the, maybe the siblings or something?" And it's like, no, I'm afraid that they'll only issue one flag. But the veterans organizations and/or the veteran homes that take in flags may have 100 flags and they only need 25. So they may be willing to offer you one of those flags.
Okay, I'd like to encourage anybody out there that has any questions. Go ahead, put your questions in the chat. Anything in regards to the subject matter of, you know, funerals, homegoing celebrations, um, death benefits, those types of things. Now's a great time to get those questions in the chat. Um, there's information available for you regarding the Planning Your Legacy brochure, how to make a formal request for a military burial, and Al just added one that allows you to request the actual urn if cremation is the way you intend to go. And that one is www.cem.va.gov/urn dash plaque backslash.
Right.
So,
So, but again, if your veteran was with the VSO or you want to go to the VSO office, either in your county, state, or tribe or veteran organization, they can complete those documents really easily online on
mhm,
computer,
mhm.
and then they just upload it right into the VA.
All right, and then we're off to the races. We're good to go.
Yeah, anything that you send to the VA in paper that is a claim for a benefit is going to come to Janesville, Wisconsin. They have a massive warehouse that takes all the mail that is involved claims and they scan it in. Well, if your VSO can send it to them electronically, then it's already in the VA. It's not having to be scanned in.
Mhm.
So there's no delay in the paperwork getting processed.
No delays with the paperwork getting processed. That's like really nice. You love to hear that.
Yep.
Love to hear that.
One of
So
the things
go ahead.
one of the things I didn't put on the list, though, I forgot to put on tonight's list, was funeral stipend. and plot allowance, and when or when not, and you know, does that apply for reservists and National Guard members, when and when not? So the VA, if you are at a VA facility or you are on transportation going to a VA facility, you may be eligible for having your remains transported home. So,
Okay.
yeah, or even out to a national cemetery at the VA's expense.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
The funeral or plot allowance comes into play when, if the veteran's death is service related, if they've been 100% or individually unemployable for more than 10 years, the VA is going to assume that their death is service related.
Okay.
They have no reason to think otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to send $2,000 to the family.
Okay.
If it's a veteran that is rated for any condition, and it doesn't have to be the cause of death, then there's a plot allowance and a funeral allowance. If the family shows, here's the funeral bill, and we paid it. So the VA says, okay, here's $978. Oh, you bought a private plot in a cemetery, and maybe that plot was bought 50 years ago. You can get a hold of the cemetery, and they have the records, they have their books. Okay, yeah, you paid $600 and some, which actually back then they probably paid a lot less than that. The VA will reimburse up to $978 again. So if you just bought the plot and it was $1,000, you're only going to get $978.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to have the plot reimbursed and or significantly reimbursed.
And explain the transportation benefit part again. You said if they are in a home.
Yeah, if they're in a veteran home, if they're at a VA appointment,
Okay.
you know, or maybe they're a patient at the VA, something happens, then the VA is going to take care of getting the remains to wherever you need them to be.
Understood. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to it. And that also, you know, people will say, well, I only served in the reserves. Okay, were you called to active duty? And active duty doesn't mean you have to have been called up for wartime. It doesn't mean you had to go overseas. You may have been activated on federal active duty. Like I got called up for Hurricane Hugo and San Francisco earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
So I did communication support. I basically went to my reserve site, and we had huge 10 kW boosters, so we could actually radio from where we were in Maryland to California.
Oh my.
And so then we patched them through our radio system to the Red Cross, to the Navy office, to get things coordinated and to get the response that they needed. Same thing with Hurricane Hugo when it went over the Virgin Islands and wiped out their commo site in South Carolina. We took over and did their commo, and we did the push to talk and connect and cross-patch people over so they could talk to their relatives here in the States as at nighttime. And during the day, we did all the Red Cross and whatnot traffic. So it may not have been that you got called up for a wartime. You got called under federal duty.
But if you did get called up for active duty, then you are eligible for, are we saying they're eligible for the same types of benefits or what?
They're more limited.
Okay.
A reservist, though, that did their 20 years and was either eligible for or receiving retirement pay is entitled to more benefits, funeral honors and all that kind of stuff, and eligibility for headstones and eligibility for placement in a cemetery. And if they have a VA rating for any injury or illness, then they fall into the same category with everybody else. So it's a matter of status, of what duty status you were in at the time and things like that. So a lot of reservists, National Guard members don't think they're entitled to any benefits. Or maybe they bought that life insurance while they were in, and Now the family doesn't know where to go to ask for it. They can come to the BSO, who can help them do the applications.
Okay, that's some good news for our National Guard members or former National Guard members or reservists. I love this show. I love this show so much. I learn something new every single month, and then in case you guys wondering what I do with the information when I do learn something new, I go and talk to somebody I know that have served in the military before. And then I try to encourage them to log into the show. And if any of my friends or family are out there, hey, y'all. And then I encourage them to pursue their benefits. Here at Just the Facts, ma'am, we will always be encouraging you to pursue your benefits, to encourage your family members to know who your VSO is, so that when there are opportunities for you to tap in, you or your family, to tap into the benefits that you have that you have served and earned, served for and earned, that you have someone that can help. I see, so, hey, Tam Lawrence, thanks for tuning in. Are we related? I'm just playing.
You go back enough, far enough in history, maybe.
Yeah, we may be, but thanks for tuning in to the show. I appreciate that. That's just great. Okay, keep going, Miss Jane. Um,
So we also want to talk about the fact that anytime you experience death of a family member, if you're that first generation, you probably need counseling. If your veteran was receiving counseling at a vet center, okay, what's the vet center? Vet center, there aren't nearly enough of them. They are, but they aren't part of the VA, in that they can't automatically share medical records with the VA. Veteran has to actually sign to get those medical records released to the VA. So if they're filing for PTSD or depression, anxiety, or any of that stuff, then they have to sign to release the vet center records. But a vet center is staffed by counselors. Most of the folks that are there are counselors. They cannot prescribe medication.
okay.
So a lot of my guys would come in and say, oh, my wife says I have to file because I'm a grump and I drink too much. Well, okay, have you ever been diagnosed? Because you have to have a diagnosis to have a claim. Okay, I'm going to send you I want you to go to the vet center and do at least 6 to 8 counseling sessions with them. Then you're going to release that information to the I want to say psychiatrist. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking it's the psychiatrist. Psychiatrists and psychologists always confuse me. One is able to write prescriptions and one isn't. And it's the guy that can write prescriptions that has the training to actually diagnose you within accordance of DSM-5. That's the mental health manual, mental health medical manual. So that's the person you got to go see. And they're going to read the notes from the vet center guys and say, oh, yeah, based on what you told the vet center guy, and I got a couple questions for you. Okay, yeah, I agree with your counselor that you've experienced trauma and therefore it's PTSD. You've had a risk of your life or the life of the people around you. And so that kind of trauma is PTSD. Oh, well, you weren't in that situation, or you weren't in that car accident that killed a bunch of guys on post or something like that. So you didn't have a fear of life. But maybe you had a lot of things going on in your personal life at that time, and you started suffering PTSD or depression, anxiety. You felt like you weren't doing your job well enough, and you were depressed about other things going on in your life. So maybe that's the diagnosis that you need. So I used to tell the guys I would file an initial intent to file as mental health to include depression, anxiety, possible PTSD. And that way, when we got the diagnosis 3 months down the road, it matched up with at least part of the list that I had. So that vet center, if your veteran was going to counseling at a vet center and you've just lost your veteran, you can go there for bereavement counseling.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Where is the vet center the same place where the VSO is, or is the vet center okay?
No. Now, in my case, in my office, we were lucky being that we were about 45 minutes away from the vet center. One day a week, one of their counselors came down and spent the day with several of my veterans, especially my older guys that couldn't drive. So he came to them to help. And if you've lost your veteran to suicide, you can also use the vet center counseling.
That's tough. Hi, Cindy out there. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for tuning in. Oh my God, that's hard. Um, does every state have a vet center? Because you said vet center is just counseling, right?
Right. Yep. It's just counseling. And yeah, there are. If you look at the big number, I can't remember what the number is right now, but there are usually a couple in each state.
Okay.
But driving 2 hours
Hmm.
may not fit in your life. But if you've lost a veteran, or especially to suicide,
Hmm.
don't ignore your need to talk it out. Everybody's got to verbally puke.
Right. And you want to get some help before you're overwhelmed. Grief is grief is kind of sneaky, right? You may have enough of what you need as the survivor, or your loved one may have enough um, to get the funeral plan, get your suit picked out, get those things done. But at some point, grief is coming, and,
Yes.
and it may come at the most unexpected time, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
For some people, it's instantaneous, and for other people, it's months down the road.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And knowing that there are benefits made available to the veteran and to the survivors to help get through the inevitable, right? To get through the inevitable is that's good news. That's
Yeah.
good news.
Especially when it's a young person. Um, one of my one of my active duty girls. Well, she was reservist, but then she got activated, and she was shot in one of the first post shootings. For some
Mm,
reason, Amy, and I can't think of her last name, but her parents, they were stoically going through everything, and they were just like handling it all. And then one day, her mom called me up in tears and said, "I don't know how to wake up tomorrow. I don't know if I can go to bed tonight because I see her every night." And it was just like, okay, you're the parents. You need to go to the vet center because active duty deaths and
mhm,
the vet center nearest by will take care of those families also.
mm. Yep, that is that is a blessing. That's a blessing because it grief is right. It's so unpredictable, um, and you need a viable option to address it. You need somebody that you can talk to. You need to know where to go. Where to go, or at least to have someone that cares about your loved one, so that they can get your loved one to the right place. People
Yeah.
like Jane that that get people to the right place, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Unfortunately, suicide does have a tendency to be um, sometimes generational, but I was thinking sometimes it becomes a pattern. Sometimes it becomes almost acceptable to other people. that love the person that first committed suicide. And it's not. You're just adding to the grief, but you're not alone. There are safety nets. If you are a veteran and you are in a mental health crisis and you're really thinking about leaving, or you're thinking that if I wasn't here, they'd be in less pain or I'd be in less pain, if you're seriously planning, thinking of whatever, you're in crisis mental health wise, you can walk into any local emergency room. You don't even have to be enrolled in VA healthcare. If you are potentially eligible for VA healthcare, then you go and you take care of what you need to take care of and let the VA know you're there. They will enroll you instantaneously so that they can pay for that emergency room visit. And if that emergency room doctor says, yeah, I really don't think this person should go home, I think they need some resident care or at least a few days of monitored care. Well, if the VA is too far away or they don't have a bed available, they will pay for you to stay in that local hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Suicide is serious business, folks. Please don't leave ahead of your scheduled departure.
Yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that. And Miss Jane said, if you're contemplating it, it's time to go to the emergency room.
Yep. There is no detractor from getting help. It's the not getting help
Mm-hmm.
that is going to hurt your family, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move off of this. We're getting a little morbid. The last thing on my list is a thing called a Presidential Memorial Certificate.
What is a Presidential Memorial Certificate, Jane?
It is a certificate issued by the President of the United States recognizing and honoring a veteran's military service. And so if your veteran passes away, you are going to get a Presidential Memorial Certificate signed by the current president.
Do I have to ask for it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And
Okay.
actually, they will send one, and you can request more than one. Say the veteran had 4 children.
Okay.
So that's where, again, the VSO comes in. As a VSO in our office, we automatically at least ordered one, unless we knew that there wasn't any family. But if there was, usually we knew if they were married, whether or not they had kids and things like this. So we would order at least one. But sometimes we called the family ahead of time and said, hey, look, we know mom is gone already. And we know there's 3 of you. Do you think all 3 of you would like a certificate? And we would order 3.
And what does the certificate say?
It's in honor of, I used to be able to say it perfectly, but basically it says that the President of the United States would like to recognize your military service.
Okay. And does it have like the time that you served and the branch that you served?
Well, it usually says the branch of service.
Okay.
I think they just massively print everything and then they do I think they do the auto pen on them. But
That's super. That's awesome.
Yeah, to have that national recognition
Mm-hmm.
is, it's nice.
It's very nice. And, even when our lives come to an end, we get to live forever when our heirs speak our name, right? And they
Yep.
say, hey, check this out. Or this was my grandma's or my grandfather's. So
Can't
memorial
see it.
certificate is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a bigger plaque. I don't think it's going to show up here.
Okay.
Up above, right here. If you can't see it, but if you could, it is a World War I Purple Heart.
Wow.
In World War I, they did not have the medal. They didn't create that until 1932.
Okay.
So that one is my grandfather's. And
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
if you're a member of the DAV, look at your patch because that's part of the. It's a Lady Columbia knighting a doughboy, and it says, accolades of humanity for injuries received in the World War.
That's awesome. I can see it a little bit behind you, but
See if I can turn that. There you go.
oh, there we go. Yeah,
Yep,
okay, now we can
that's
see
my
it.
grandpa, and then that's my grandpa when he got his colonel stripe, and then that's his World War I footwear. And I didn't know why he had gotten the World War I one. And then I started Googling his unit and stuff like this. And I actually found somebody who had posted their diary that they had kept.
Oh,
And in this guy's diary, it says, Captain Cook was borne off the battlefield due to shrapnel injuries today.
mm,
So apparently he was unconscious and they stretchered him off the battlefield. So,
wow.
yeah, that was kind of neat. But
Okay, so we got 7 or 8 minutes. I'm checking the chat to see if there are any questions. I don't see any questions, but I do have a few notes that I need to share. If you missed any part of the Just the Facts Ma'am program, any prior episodes, you can go back and watch them on demand. I encourage you to do so. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to share it with those you love, right? Make it like, oh, just work it into your schedule. Maybe an hour here on the weekend or something like that, so that you and your family will be aware of the benefits that are due you. The address for on demand is O4V TV, and it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's O like ops, four, the
Oscar,
number four.
we got to teach you the phonetic alphabet, girl. O is Oscar.
Y'all, why y'all didn't send me no text? Y'all could have sent me a text. O is for Oscar. Dang.
Yeah,
What help me with what about V?
Victor.
Oscar for Victor dot TV.
Tango, Victor.
Tango Victor. Oh, I love that so much.
Yep.
And what else do we have? And then we have, if you want a link to request medals for deceased veterans, if you want to do that, that's www.cem.va.gov/RECMED, which is receive medal, just RECMED underscore records.asp.
Yes.
Well, we've got a few
And
more
again,
minutes
your
left.
BSO can help you with that. And if if your veteran managed to get through his whole life without being involved with the VA, your VSO, if they know where he entered service, where he processed, did this, and I have a tendency to think of myself as one of the guys because it's just the majority of our population. So the veteran passes away and you don't have his discharge document, that VSO can reach out to the state where they entered service. I could literally get a DD 214 in 2 hours or less sometimes.
Wow.
A lot of states have these cross agreements that they will share these documents as long as it's going electronically to an accredited VSO. And as one of those, I could print it out and stamp it and sign it that it was a true copy of an original custodial document. And the VA would accept that to get all the benefits going.
And how far, like that ability to go back and research that, like how far back can you go?
Well, it depends
Like,
on the state you're in because,
okay.
like here in Wisconsin, we have records that are from World War I.
Oh my goodness.
And on the National Archive, sometimes I've gone on the National Archive and searched my grandfather, and I found his payslips.
Wow.
Like when he mustered out and they paid him.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes you can get those documents. and use those kind of things. Pretty much the VA is up to speed. If you've ever applied to VA or if you've been in VA healthcare or any of that, they've already verified your documents. So you may not even need them, but it just makes it easier if you have a copy of them.
Okay, well,
The rater or the person processing the claim doesn't have to
we know that our viewers have been in contact with the VA. Yeah, we're nodding out there. I can't see your faces, but you're nodding. Yeah. We also know that our viewers are in contact with their VSO, right? We're also nodding. Yes.
Yep, because your VSO is going to tell you stuff that the VA doesn't tell you. Just today, I had a gentleman message me I had given him some counsel on evidence he needed to submit to get his rating done. And he got back with me to tell me his rating. And he was very pleased and all this stuff. And then I said, okay, now you need to, have that conversation about add-on benefits and stuff like this. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, wait a minute, aren't you working with a VSO? I gave you the link. I told you to get a VSO. And he went, well, no, I figured I already had it in and you just helped me know some more evidence to send in. So I figured it was all good. And I'm like, no. Because if you have to have, like, I've already had knee surgery a couple times. So that service-connected knee eventually is going to get replaced. And when it does, I will be 100% on just my knee, which means all the nerve damage and the metal that they put my neck back together with and the torn up shoulder and all that stuff will still add up to 60%. So there's almost $300 that they're going to add on top of my current pay. Because my recovery is going to take 6 months to a year on the knee to fuse the bone into the metal.
Oh.
He was like, oh, glad I talked to you because I'm going in for surgery in next month. I was like, okay.
Okay, people, VSO.
Yep. And there are some good claims agents out there, but why are you paying somebody that is going to do the same work? Or maybe, and especially if they say, oh, well, it's going to cost you $5,000. And if it's a presumptive, that's going to take them maybe 2 hours to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
there are claim agents that are real sharks.
We're not tolerating any sharks around here.
No. Go to your VSO. But if your VSO, you think they're being lazy or things are taking too long and things like that, if they work for the county, guess what? Their boss is usually right down the hall. And if they work for the state, you can call the governor. But please do the same thing for the guy or the VSO that does a great job for you. The VSO that does the research for you, that gets you a claim that you couldn't get before because the VA kept saying, no, you don't have the right evidence. And then they fixed it for you. Call their boss and tell them that too.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else on your list, Ms. Jane, or are we done with all of the facts for this month?
Yep, I think we're done.
All right, everybody. Thank you. You'll see at the bottom of our blue screen that there's contact information there if you'd like to reach out to Jane after the fact because you thought of a question that you didn't ask during the show. I can be reached at tracy@heissurety.com. That's TRACEY at HEISSURETY.com. We are so thankful that you tune into the show. We love it even more when you spread the news and share it with other people that are veterans, care about veterans, interested in veterans benefits. When you can't get to us, make sure you go back and look it up on demand. And I guess with that, Ms. Jane, I'm going to say bye to everybody tuning in. I'm going to say thanks to Al and Daniel. Thanks, Jane.
Take care, Tracy. Thank you for your service, everybody.
You see him? He's just as dead as we are. Now, you listen to me, youngster. Someday you're gonna wake up fighting on a beachhead. You pray to God some guy doesn't get killed because of your foolishness. You join the Marine Corps, Owens. We don't deal in pity and sympathy.
I try.
Try? We don't try in this Marine Corps. We either do or we don't. We don't straddle any fences, you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Every time you make one of these little mistakes of yours, you're gonna turn around and I'll be standing right there.
Needing money or anything, you know? Man, I got over like a fat rat when I got out, man. I got my school money coming from the government once a month. I got my veterans check coming once a month. I got my 50% medical check coming to me for the rest of my life.